welcome to the FBC Global Missions Podcast. And this is Jim Poole, and have Joel and Rachel McManigal with us today. So thanks for being with us from Southeast Asia. And it's been a little while since we had you guys on. Looking forward to visiting again and catching up some.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So I do know that you guys have recently moved houses and relocated. So share a little bit with us about that.
Yeah, so the move came about just through conversations with people in our church, just wanting to get more connected with them. We were seeing everybody on Sundays and building relationships with them and stuff. But just wanting to connect more with people in the church. And as we talked with the folks in church, we found out everybody kind of lives in one area of town that was quite far from our old house. And so at the time, our contract on that house was up. And so we just started looking out in this area where everybody from our church was living and just looking for places, but it was kind of difficult too because it was quite the drive. And so in order for us to drive out and to drive around communities looking for rent signs, it was taking quite a bit of time to do that. There is some things posted online, but so in just like in the US where you can look for places online, you can do that some here, but all of those, the majority of those houses would be in very, very wealthy neighborhoods, in neighborhoods where you have less of a community because there's less need. And so typically what's online is not what we were looking for. And so as we were looking, we just started asking people in our church too, just if we do move out this way, is there more potential for relationship? Do the folks hang out, or do they kind of stick to themselves during the week and then hang out on Sundays? Or we just had no idea. And with each person that we kind of shared our thoughts with, they were excited about it. And yeah, I'll help you find a place, and start listing all the people that would live near us and that could come visit us, and that we could visit them. And each person just kind of the same reaction. Well, I'll help you find a place. I'll keep an eye out. And some of them even I know drove around looking for places for us, and was there was a house we were interested in, so we asked them about it. What do you think of this? What do you think of the community here? And so yeah, it was a really neat process looking for a house, because the church really rallied behind us, really encouraged us to do it. And then the place we ended up finding was someone in our church that knew somebody who works for somebody that has a house for rent, about what we were looking for. And so they brought us out here to look at it, and we really liked it, liked the house. And then 2 weeks ago we moved out here, and it's a 30-minute drive from where we were. And so the week before we moved, we kind of just slowly moved some of our stuff as we were just kind of setting up the house slowly. And then on Saturday, the women in our church all gathered together at our new house to clean it and get it all ready. So we still met the ladies out here, and they cleaned the house. The couple that brought us to see the house, the wife, she said she had mentioned having the ladies come out and clean it, and the guy mentioned having all the guys help us move our stuff. And he said, and if you don't let us help, we're going to be mad at you and we're not going to come visit. And so they were, just more than willing to help and stuff. And so on a Saturday, the ladies came out and they cleaned the house. And then on Sunday, we were planning to move the stuff, all of our bigger furniture and stuff. We didn't have a ton of stuff because the beds at the old place that belonged to the owner, the couch, the washing machine, a lot of those bigger items they belonged to the house anyway. But on that Sunday, the church is very, very communal, and so usually on Sunday that's when events are happening. And that's when they're gathering together to do events. And so one of the events was us moving. Well, there was 2 other events that day that were quite important. One of them where they were going to a cremation site that other churches were going to be allowed to use and stuff, and just kind of dedicating the site. So there were several people from our church represented our church that went to that. And then there was a leadership meeting in the church, all of the elders and deacons and leaders of the youth, leaders of the different ministries that they have, all had a kind of like a staff meeting. So they all met. And so I was not sure how many people were going to help us move and stuff. With these other things going on, most of the people that I know really well and have talked to a lot and have been talking about us moving, all of them are part of the leadership meeting. And so they were all given their apologies of why they couldn't come and stuff. And so Sunday came, and by the end of the service, the pastor came up to me and he said, "Hey, I have 5 or 6 trucks lined up to help you." And I was like, "What? 5 or 6 trucks? Like, who are these people that are doing this?" And I had no idea. And after church, we all eat lunch together. And while we're eating lunch, it started pouring down rain. Like the Lord opened up the floodgates and it was just pouring. And so then everybody is asking me, "Okay, can the stuff get wet? Do you have tarps? Do you have plastic?" And I was like, no, it can't all get wet. A lot of it is furniture. I don't have tarps and plastic. So then I was talking to the pastor about it, and he said he told me where I could go buy like a big roll of plastic to cover the stuff, and he got them on the phone so I could talk to them and order this roll of plastic. So I did that, and then we go to leave the church, and someone came up and handed me the keys to their truck and said, "Here, you drive mine, and then that way I can drive another truck." So, okay. And so then Rachel was gonna go get the plastic, and I was going to the house to begin loading. And on the way, like, the blue sky opened up and the clouds moved away. And so I was just thinking, man, you know what? Maybe we don't need this plastic. It was going to be, 50, $80 or something. And so I called Rachel and said, "You know what? I don't think we need the plastic." They didn't need to cut it anything. It was a whole roll. So we're not putting them out by not getting it. So we canceled that order and went to the house and loaded. We started loading at 2, and there turned out to be 7 trucks. By the time we got all moved over to our house, it was maybe 3:30. And that's so it took about an hour to load all the trucks and then a half hour to drive over to the house. And blue skies. There was one of the trucks we didn't use. Another truck, I was gonna drive my motorcycle over, and the guy said, "Oh, we have an extra truck. Let's just put it in the back of the truck." And so we did that, and and there was so many people there to help lift stuff. I felt like I hardly did anything that day except for point to what was ours and what wasn't,
And return stuff that wasn't supposed to be moved.
take stuff back into the house. No, that's not ours. We had one friend that said, "If I stand still too long, don't take me too." They were just so willing to help and just grabbing everything out of the house and loading it into the trucks. And so we got to the house, got unloaded by 4, and everybody kind of hung out for a while, eating snacks and having some drinks and stuff. And they left. And about 4:30, the floodgates just opened up again, and it downpoured for another several hours.
Wow.
Yeah, it just felt so blessed by the Lord, just holding off the rain. Just so blessed by the community, helping us move, and most of the people moving I didn't know very well at all. Some of them I met for the first time. And it was just really, really felt loved and encouraged, and they were excited, and it was just a really, we were very, very blessed. We're here serving them, and we're receiving way more blessing than they are, for sure. So that's,
And looking back, we just see God's faithfulness in this process, because even before we moved here, kind of our goals for this season was, okay, learn the language and get involved in the local church. Those are like our 2 big goals for this season. And it was really discouraging the first year, over a year. The day we arrived in town, the church closed their doors because of COVID, and I know we've shared that before. And then we thought, okay, this will be a few weeks or whatever. And so we had some other people in our organization that are in town learning language. And so on Sundays, we were gathering with them to worship. And just looking back on this whole process, it's neat to see God's faithfulness. I think even before moving, when we were still in Virginia, our 2 goals for this season of life were learn language and then make connections with the local church. Those were like our 2 main things. And it had been pretty discouraging our first year, not being able to be part of the church. I don't know if you can hear our local announcement in the background, but so when we arrived in country, the church closed because of COVID, and we thought it was just going to be like a couple weeks and we would wait it out. And so we had been gathering with the other people in our organization that are also here learning language on Sundays, and worshiping with them, and just kind of waiting to get plugged in with the church. Well, this went on for some months, and we finally realized, okay, this isn't going to change anytime soon. And with one of our main goals being to plug in with the local church, like how can we do this in COVID with the church meeting online and stuff? Like how can we get involved? Can we change our perspective and the way we're approaching things? And so we started joining church online on a Sunday morning, and then we realized there were other opportunities then online as well. They had an online Bible study, and then an online prayer meeting during the week. So there were 2 other opportunities during the week to get involved. And so we just started showing up virtually to everything that we could. And it felt very lacking. We didn't feel connected, but we felt like it was important to just get our names and our faces out there and show that, hey, like this is our desire and this is something that is important to us. And so whatever's available, like we're going to show up to. And we see the fruit of that initially. But looking back now, we just see God's leading in that, because I think it really did, make some inroads for us, so that when the church did open the end of May, people knew who we were. They were excited about it, us being there, and we really were embraced with open arms. And we have felt that so much, especially with this move, like Joel was sharing. Like they have been so supportive, and they now see us as a part of their family, and that's been really special, and something, a direct result to prayers. I just recognize so much that we've been having people pray for us this whole time. And on Sunday afternoon, we had a little outing with our language helper and her husband and their kids. And we went to a reservoir locally, and it was just so cool, because from the beginning, when we started meeting with her over a year ago, we're like, okay, our kids are a similar age, like we connect really well. We met her husband, and we're like, it'd be really cool if we could hang out as families. But we've shared about little Adrienne and her heart disease. So they were really, really cautious with COVID. And so we didn't hang out with them at all outside of language sessions or church. So then this last Sunday was the first time that we did hang out, and it was really fun. Our families do get along really well. And so, yeah, I just feel like that was affirmation from the Lord, for our, waiting over the last year and just doing what we can. And we're just thankful for his faithfulness. And then it is really sweet to be able to kind of reap some of the results from that time.
That's great. How many kids does this family have?
They have two. So their son is Micaiah's age, so he's 8. And then their daughter Adrienne is she 5? Yeah, so she's a little bit younger than Malachi. But they actually speak quite a bit of English. Their parents have been really intentional with teaching them, so that helps our kids. Our kids are learning some of the language here, and so kind of between the two, they have a mismatch of language that they use, and they can communicate. So they have fun together.
That's sweet. I mean, that's what a story. I mean, I remember you guys sharing, like you just said, it was tough in the beginning, going there with those, trusting God for those, goals and objectives, and to connect with the church. And it was just, how do you connect through a screen, and do language stuff through a screen? And it was a struggle for a while. And so you mentioned language study, Rachel, and so how is language study going for the both of you?
Yeah, so we had an evaluation in August, and that was really encouraging to see that we've improved a lot over the last year. It's hard to explain the whole like way that they evaluate and stuff, but basically we're communicating well. There's not a whole lot that we're not understanding. We're able to communicate. We might not have all the vocabulary, but between the vocabulary we do have and being able to explain things, like, okay, we might not know the word for something, but we can describe it, or so there's not a whole lot just kind of in everyday life that we're not able to understand or communicate. Right now the goal is just to really polish our language so that we sound natural and we can communicate in a way that is persuasive. And we're really thankful for the push that our org has in language, because what we have right now, it works. But then when you think about communicating the truth of God's word, we don't want something that just works. Like, we want to be able to communicate in a way that is relevant and effective. And we did identify some gaps with the help of our evaluator in our culture mainly. A lot of our friends are in the church and are believers, which is cool. But we have some gaps when it comes to the Buddhist worldview. And so something that you guys can be praying with us about is just that we would make some connections with some people who are Buddhist, and so we can learn more about the way they view life and they think about things, and just so that we can contextualize God's word in to people that have that worldview.
It's been neat to see, with language, progress just feels so slow, because in order to as you're learning words and stuff, like first you hear them and you don't have any idea what that means, and then you get a definition of it. Well, then you hear it again eventually, and oh yeah, I remember that. I've heard that before. It sounds familiar, but I can't remember what it means. And then you get the definition again as a reminder. And then later on, you hear it again, and it takes you a little bit to think of what it means. And then a while later, you hear it again and you know right away what it means. But when you're speaking, like, that word still does not come up in your vocabulary to use it. And then after a while, eventually that word becomes natural enough to where you can use it on a regular basis. So like that's the progression of one word going from the never heard it before to I'm using it. And that takes a long time. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes it feels like, there is no progress, but then, if you sit down and think about, okay, this word that I'm using regularly now, I remember when I didn't know what that was. But then the language learning process, it really never ends, because no languages, their words are one-to-one. And so you learn a meaning of a word, and that might be true, but that word might be way broader than the word we have in English, or it might be way more narrow than the word we have in English. And there's another word that expands it. And so there's just a lot of things like that where, we learn a word and we're confident in it. And then we hear it in another context, and I didn't know you could use that word there. Or, one example is the word that is translated as herb in English. When we think of a herb in English, it's plants only, and it's particular kinds of plants. But in Thai, it's anything that can be used as a remedy. And so yes, that is plants, and that is what we in English would call herbs. But it also includes any animal parts that they may use as a remedy for anything. Wow. So it could be like bones, or it could be some sort of concoction that they have made that includes animal parts and includes plants. And so that word, if you look it up, you would think it's a direct translation, and it works most of the time. But it's not a direct one-to-one. So there's so many examples of that where you just have to be open-minded, in the sense that you're not going to write in stone that this word equals this word in English. Like, here's a use of it, but you're open to, where else might I hear this? and what else might this mean? Because it's either broader or more narrow in just about the situation.
So we can also use a word incorrectly because we think that it's a one-to-one translation, but they wouldn't use it in a context or something.
Right. Yeah. An example of that in reverse, there was a Thai person that was showing us these lizards that were soaking in some sort of alcohol that they use as a remedy, and she called it an herb. And wait a second,
Wow.
that's not an herb. But the Thai word for herb, yes, that is what that would be. And so in reverse, we're prone to do that in Thai, where if the English word is way more broad than the Thai word, we may use it incorrectly like that.
And that's really relevant when it comes to teaching God's word. We've been exploring the meaning of grace in Thai because it isn't a one-for-one in English. And so we've been thinking about, okay, where do they use the word grace? And something that's been really cool for me in more the cultural aspect of our studies is just learning about aspects of their culture that become an inroad for the gospel and that we can leverage in communicating God's truth. And one of those things is the way that they view parents in this society is really beautiful. And we experienced that on Thai Mother's Day that happens in August. And the entire church service was dedicated to Mother's Day, and all the mothers were seated in the front, and the children had a special number that they sang, and then all the children pinned flowers on their mother's chest. And it was just this huge deal. And I remember Mother's Day from my childhood, but this was my first time as a mother experiencing it in this culture. And it was so cool. And there's a word that they use. There's not really a direct translation in English, but it talks about a child's appreciation for what their parents have sacrificed, specifically their mothers. Like the mother-child bond is really significant here.
It's essentially an indebtedness, but that word in English has negative connotations, to be in debt. And so, thinking of an indebtedness that is not negative and that is born from gratitude. And obligation is close, but that also I feel like has negative connotations. So like an obligation, an indebtedness that comes from gratitude and thankfulness. It's a positive thing.
Yeah. So this is a huge part of their culture here, and it's been really cool to explore. And something that's really important to them is then to care for parents in later life, because your parents cared for you when you were young and helpless. And so for a child, it is their responsibility to give their parents good care when they're elderly. And someone who's a social outcast is someone who wouldn't take care of their parents here. I mean, that is just like pretty much the worst thing that you can do. And even from a spiritual aspect, like there's a special level of hell for people who kill their parents or mistreat their parents, or I mean, it's just like all over the culture here. And it's just such a cool thing because I think they understand in a unique way the gratitude that we can have towards the Lord for what he's done for us, because there is this positive indebtedness and this obligation to serve and to respond to the sacrifice that parents have done. And it's I think it's just a beautiful picture of the gospel. Like, yes, we can never repay the gift that Christ gave us, but how can we live in light of that in a joyful service in response to him? And so there's every once in a while we hit on an aspect of the culture that is like, oh, this is really cool, and this is like something that we can use as a bridge to the gospel. So that's fun. Yeah, because they in that child-parent relationship, they will talk about all that the parents have done for the child when the child was helpless, and just the grace upon grace
and the generosity. And man, you look at creation, you look at God's pursuit of Israel, and that's what they're describing in this imperfect world is what God does perfectly, and his pursuit of mankind and his generosity and his pouring out, his other-centeredness is something that they value at the core of their culture. They value that. And so that's something that is so important to describe God clearly and to point to who he truly is, because none of the spirits, none of the things that they worship and they believe in are like that. And it just reminds me of Paul. I think it was in Athens where there was that idol to the unknown God. And this ideal that they describe and that they value in their culture, that God is that and much more.
Yeah, and then that's really, again, tying that back into the church and like Mother's Day, and being able to have that time there, with the church and that experience there at the church, and just the way that God worked that and all that came about. I mean, to me, that's just like extra special, extra awesome, because not only, if you were to learn something, significant in language study or whatever, or, but to learn something like that with the significance, with the spiritual depth to it about what all that means, and then tying that into just the way that God's working to open the church back up and give you the relationships at the church and Mother's Day at the church. And that's a great thing that the Lord did for you guys, and will continue to do for you all. That's awesome. Yeah. So when you're in the church services, are you able to understand like most of what's being taught, like even with the spiritual terminology?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're at the point where there's not much that we're missing.
There's words here.
There's words here and there. But yeah, I definitely feel like we're at the point where we are being fed from the word in another language. And so
Awesome. Wow, that's cool.
That's really, really encouraging. And and all languages that way, where your comprehension is going to be way above what you're able to communicate. And so even though we're understanding at that level, we're not communicating at that level.
Yeah. So then like how much language school do you have left, or what's your kind of estimation of that?
So with our evaluation, our evaluator said we could be done in February. So that's kind of a tentative date. But of course, language study, you never actually finish, but that's kind of when we could finish our program.
Yeah. So then when would you, if that part of it's say done in February, then when would you think that like you'd be estimate or possibly be at a spot where you could teach in Thai?
I think teaching in Thai is probably going to come before February.
Okay.
A couple of weeks ago, the pastor asked me about it, asked if he could put me asked me if I was ready to be put on the teaching schedule.
Awesome.
I said, I don't think I'm quite ready for that yet. And this was in June, and I said maybe 2 or 3 more months. And so we're past that. So
we're waiting.
I think
Oh.
we're 4 months past that.
Yeah. So I'm anticipating being put on that before then. And yeah, I feel like I'm at the point where with a lot of preparation and help, I think I could teach in Thai. It would be after February and beyond where I think if it was on the spot, hey, can you share something real quick? I think, yeah, that would be later down the road, that type of thing. But I think at this point with preparation and stuff, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
So then be ready to give a defense in season and out of season. For you and Ty, not quite yet.
Yeah. Right.
That's got a little clause for it by you, when except for teaching Thai right now.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. That's great. You know, language, the school you've been going to being done in February and maybe put into the teaching rotation. So, I mean, what would that? Do they have like Sunday school at your church? And is there I'm sure there's some sort of a main service at the church. And I mean, when they talk about putting you into like a teaching rotation, what format would that be in?
Yeah, that would be the Sunday service.
Okay.
Teaching. They do have before church, there's a Sunday school where they're going through creation to Christ.
Nice.
But I don't think that's the teaching rotation he was referring to.
Okay.
They also on Wednesday night, there's a prayer meeting, but typically somebody shares like a short devotional,
Right.
And they've mentioned having Joel on that as well, so that'd be another opportunity.
On Sunday mornings, the service there that they're talking about, do they typically teach like through a section of the Bible? Is it more exegetical? Is it more topical, or what's that like?
It's more exegetical depending on the teacher. Yeah, like I said, there's a teaching rotation, and so it each teacher is going to decide what they teach, and so it's not progressive in any way. It's not. So it's very topical, but some will do a better job of teaching a passage exegetically. So it's not progressive at all.
There's probably five guys that teach, including the pastor. Yeah. So the rotation is those people taking turns, and then they share kind of whatever the Lord puts on their hearts.
Yeah. Cool. Nice.
So that's, in some ways, that's nice for me because early on I think I'm gonna need to teach what I am able to communicate and not try to communicate something I want to teach.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, you can early on, you kind of stay where you're comfortable at with your language. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, hey Joel, we want you to teach this, and it's some passage or topic, it isn't in your wheelhouse. Then it might be.
We're not ready.
Yeah. So what about the ladies at the church, Rachel? Are they do the ladies do anything for just the ladies, or does it just does the church pretty much just meet as a whole with everybody together?
No, so they're the way they kind of split up is the men, well, the fathers, the mothers, the youth, which includes like young young singles as well, and then the little kids. And so the moms will meet a couple times a month after church. So typically we have the church service, we have lunch together, and then usually there's some kind of activity in the afternoon. So like this week, the moms are getting together after church for a couple hours to share and have a time of fellowship and sharing. And then once a month, that time would be more teaching. One of the women will teach from the word, or from, I think they're doing a book study. So I've been able to join and practice sharing scripture in that context too. So that's been cool. And then they'll do like fun outings during the week sometime as well. So, and then they, like last week they had a little market where they sold stuff and they raised funds for their outings during the month or during the year. So it's a really fun community because they do spending time together, and there's activities and helping each other like raise funds, and then deciding like what they want to do with those, and time in the word. And it is a really lively community that's been really enjoyable.
That's awesome. That sounds great. Man, I'm so happy for you guys that God's brought it to this point. Yeah, I'm sure there's just nothing but more growing in these relationships, ahead of y'all. So that's great. How about we've talked about moving and church life and ministry stuff, and what about like your all's family life? How are the girls? How are the kids? Not the girls. How are Malachi and Micaiah? How are the kids? And how are they doing? And like, how are you all finding the four of you there? And I know you said it was a bit lonely for a little while, Rachel, when your folks were gone, but I think they're back now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how's family life with the four of you?
Yeah, we're doing well. One thing with the move that we were nervous about was uprooting the kids again. We didn't know how that would be for them. And so we tried to prep them and talk through things a lot. And they have been super positive and excited about it, which we were a little bit surprised because they did have a couple friends in our old neighborhood. But we felt like, especially with the one girl that they've gotten close to, Alice, we felt like we have enough of a relationship that we can have her over for a day during the weekend or something like that. So we have her contact information, and we're hoping to keep that up. So that was, I think, a help for the kids. And they've been really positive about it and have done well. We started our homeschool year back in August, and I've tried to keep that somewhat consistent even with the move, just to give them structure. So they've been doing well, and they're excited about being closer with friends at church. And again, that's just the Lord's faithfulness, because we didn't know how the move overseas would be with them, and there's been some hard things. They really miss their cousins. But I would say they transitioned really well, and even our friends in church have noticed that and have said, "Hey, like your kids are they're doing really well. They're really adaptable. They eat the food well. They're starting to speak the language." And so, we've tried to encourage the kids too, of like, "Hey, we are in this as a family, and like your attitudes and the way you're embracing life here communicates to people too, and they're noticing, and that honors the Lord."
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. What kind of things do you guys do, like with the four of you? Do you like go to the market together, and are there things that you just are enjoying doing with the, I mean, I know moving has consumed you for the past month, I'm sure, but what kind of things like what do you guys enjoy doing together, just kind of all the four of you?
We spend a lot of time together, which is something we enjoy about our lifestyle here. It's nice just to do life together, but something that's been sweet in the midst of the move is Joel mentioned it takes about 30 minutes to go from our old house to our new house. So we've listened to a lot of audiobooks. So that's been an activity. We drive from point A to point B and we listen to stories. So we finished the Chronicles of Narnia and now we're listening to Anne of Green Gables. So
Okay.
getting like literature in that way.
Yeah.
And the kids are at a good age to play games as well. They're 8 and 6, so yeah, there's quite a few games now that they can play, and so they'll want to sit down and play a game. And recently, it's been Monopoly or Settlers that they've been wanting to play.
Okay.
So it's that's fun that they're at the age where they can play and not beat us yet. So that's good.
I think your daughter beat you in
That's
Settlers
true,
the
she
other
did.
day. If I remember.
Uh-oh.
I don't know if
Uh-oh.
you'll laugh or not, but
That's fun. Oh, that's really fun. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, getting to the point, playing board games and things like that. Yeah. We rolled out 7 to get to move the robber where you want it to go. So
Right.
yeah.
and they play really well together too. So we're thankful for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. Oh, good. Well, everybody here misses you guys, that's for sure. But we're thinking about you often, and thanks for the updates that you guys send. It was, like I said, it was really nice to see the photos last week when you guys sent those. It was great. I look at the kids on that swing there, and I enjoyed seeing that one. It was nice. Yeah.
Yeah, we miss everybody too. And thank you so much for your prayers and just standing behind us because we really feel it and we're really blessed to know that we have that support back home.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things our language helper said the other day, talking about our kids and how they've adjusted well, and yeah, just kind of in that conversation kind of dawning on us. Yeah, there's been a lot of people praying for them and a lot of people before we moved over praying for them and continuing to pray for them. And yeah, we just attribute that to the Lord's grace and the Lord's faithfulness and the Lord answering the prayers of the body, just that continue to lift our family up and lift our kids up. And we just really, really, really appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, we're thankful to be part of family with you all, and I know some in our church is family by blood, and other of us we're family in the Lord, and we're part of our global family, and we're just super thankful to, yeah. So, well, I know that your Joel, your parents are going to come over and see you, I think, later this year, and we might see you in Nepal in a couple of weeks. But yeah. Well, let me pray for you guys, and Lord, just thanks for letting us visit with Joel and Rachel, and thanks for them and for Malachi and Micaiah, and just thanks for all that they've shared, and just the greatness of who you are and the faithfulness of who you are, and just taking care of them as a family, the transition with the kids, not only getting over there, but then also transitioning into the new house 2 weeks ago, and transitioning and getting, homeschool up and going again in August. And so just saying thank you for your faithfulness, God, and who you are. That's who you are. And that's what you do. You're just faithful to us and for us. And Lord, thanks for just your faithfulness to them and their language, as you just continuing to give them more and more understanding and ability in the language. And so Lord, just thanks for that, and for the ability to maybe move into the teaching rotation soon. Boy, what a step that will be, to begin to just communicate and teach in the church in the language. What a great step that'll be. I'm sure it's exciting to anticipate that coming. So thanks for your faithfulness there, Lord, and also just in the church and the move, and getting them just geographically closer to just the church body, so they can be just closer in terms of distance, and spend more time together and visiting and fellowshipping together. Thanks for the family they went out with recently. Just the time we gave them together, and the fellowship that you gave them as adults and with the kids as well. So just thank you so much for that. Yeah, we just hold Joel and Rachel and Malachi and Kai before you, Lord, and continue to lead and guide and direct them. And what's next? What are some of the next steps once they get through the language and continue to build relationships in the church, and where you would have them to, specifically kind of hone in on discipling and training and equipping and drawing alongside and teaching. So just the next months ahead, just give clarity with that, and what that'll look like for them. We just we thank you in advance, and we trust you for your guidance and for your direction, as we know that you'll give that to them, as you have given them everything that we've been talking about through your faithfulness and through your greatness, as we've heard testimony of. So thanks, Lord, and thanks for this time. In your name we pray. Amen.